What if I told you that the most unhinged villains in fiction look like unpaid interns compared to the real rulers who actually ran countries? Not metaphorically, not dramatically. Literally ran entire civilizations with the emotional stability of a loose shopping cart on a windy hill. We are talking emperors who burned cities because they were bored. Kings who turned national budgets into personal snack money. Sultans who declared war on weather. Queens who executed people for blinking suspiciously. And monarchs whose daily routine made cartoon supervillains look underqualified. History loves to pretend that leadership requires wisdom. Reality says leadership often required nothing but a crown, a pulse, and zero accountability. Imagine giving a toddler a country. Now imagine doing that for thousands of years. That is world history. The wildest part is this. Every one of these rulers believed they were perfectly normal. They were not misunderstood geniuses. They were villains who did not even need a backstory. They just woke up and chose chaos because no one could stop them. So today we dive into 22 rulers who make Thanos look reasonable. 22 leaders whose decisions feel like they were written by a writer's room powered entirely by caffeine and spite. 22 real-life villains who would get rejected from a movie script for being too unrealistic. Let us begin with number 1. 1. Caligula. Rome's original, there is something wrong with the Wi-Fi tyrant. Caligula did not rule Rome. Caligula terrorized it the way a bored child terrorizes a cardboard box. He once declared war on the ocean, not a navy, not an island, the ocean. He marched his army to the beach, pointed at the waves, and screamed like they owed him rent. Then he ordered his soldiers to collect seashells as trophies of victory. Imagine your boss losing an argument with a puddle and promoting himself for winning. That was Caligula. He also tried to make his horse a top-ranking official because he believed the horse had better judgment than his senators. Honestly, he was probably right. Rome had emperors who expanded the empire. Caligula expanded the definition of unhinged TWO, even the terrible. The original anger issues speedrun champion, Ivan the Terrible, did not gently lose his temper. He detonated. He treated Moscow like his personal stress ball and the people as replaceable pixels. His daily routine included paranoia, violence, and the emotional stability of a malfunctioning blender. At one point, he murdered his own heir during a tantrum. Historians still debate whether it was an accident or a Tuesday for Ivan. He also created a personal death squad that dressed in black, rode black horses, and basically acted like a medieval biker gang with government funding. They had one job: make sure Ivan stayed angry and everyone else stayed terrified. Imagine a leader who rage quits entire cities. That was Ivan. If Caligula was the ocean's worst enemy, Ivan was humanity's worst roommate. 3. Emperor Ju Ha Xiao. The Ming Dynasty ruler who treated his empire like an amusement park. Ju Ha Xiao did not want to be emperor. He wanted to be the main character in the most expensive role-playing game ever created. He built a giant playhouse inside the Forbidden City, filled with fake shops, fake streets, and fake citizens who were forced to pretend he was a heroic adventurer. Imagine living through a national crisis while your emperor cosplays as a traveling merchant who sells imaginary bread. He once led a military expedition only because he felt bored at home. His soldiers fought real battles while he played dress-up and acted out dramatic scenes like a theater kid with unlimited funding. He even created an elite squad called the Leopard Battalion, whose main requirement was being fun at parties. Ju Ha Xiao did not rule China. He Leopold into confusion. 4. Joanna of Castile. History calls her Joanna the Mad. Reality calls her the queen who said no to grief the way most people deny a bad breakup. Joanna loved her husband. Then he died. And instead of grieving privately like a normal royal, she decided to take his coffin on a nationwide tour. For months. She traveled from town to town sleeping next to the coffin and refusing to bury him because she believed other women might flirt with his corpse. Yes, she had corpse jealousy. Whenever the procession stopped in a new town, Joanna banned all women from entering the area because she assumed they would admire the dead man. Imagine being so committed to loyalty that you turn funerals into road trips. Her court whispered that she lost her mind. Her rivals whispered that it was political. But everyone agreed on one thing. Joanna's love story makes Romeo and Juliet look emotionally stable. 5. Emperor Dimmission. The man who turned insecurity into a national sport. Dimmission woke up every morning and asked one question: who is plotting against me today? The answer was usually no one, so he created his own drama. He ordered the walls of his palace to be polished like mirrors so he could spot assassins behind him. Not kidding. His entire interior design style was paranoid disco ball. He forced senators to refer to him as master and god. He executed people for tiny insults. He even banned certain types of grapes because he did not like their names. Imagine living in a country where fruit can commit treason. That was Rome under Domitian. Every ruler has trust issues. Domitian had trust issues with oxygen. 6. Emperor Justin II. The ruler who bit people because reality stopped making sense. Justin II began as a competent Byzantine emperor. Then something snapped. One day he heard ambassadors speaking in a foreign language and decided the universe was attacking him. He started screaming. He started hallucinating. And then he started biting. He would chase people around the palace, trying to clamp down on them like an angry toddler with imperial authority. His advisors eventually put him into a rolling mechanical wheelchair that was pushed around while musicians played calming music to stop him from attacking everyone. This was the first recorded example of a government dealing with a mental breakdown by forming a portable soundtrack. Imagine your boss losing his mind so badly that human bites become a diplomatic hazard. That was Justin II, a man who turned the Byzantine court into a live-action survival game. 7. King Charles VI of France. The monarch who believed he was made of glass. Charles VI had a kingdom to rule, but he also had a personal emergency. He sincerely believed his body was made of fragile glass. He refused to let anyone touch him. He banned sudden movements. He even wore reinforced clothing so he would not shatter. Imagine a ruler terrified of sneezing because it might crack his torso. His advisors tried to keep the government functioning while he sat in a corner like a very nervous chandelier. Meanwhile, France collapsed into civil war. Because of course it did. It is hard to lead an army when you think a firm handshake is a lethal weapon. Charles did not break the kingdom. The kingdom broke around him. 8. Sultan Ibrahim of the Ottoman Empire. The man whose tantrums became government policy. Ibrahim was raised in isolation. When he finally became sultan, he treated the empire like it was his personal toy box. He once filled his palace pool with perfume and forced his officials to watch him splash around like a toddler who discovered luxury. He ordered mass executions based on rumors whispered by servants. He banished entire groups of people because he woke up in a bad mood. His most famous meltdown came when he believed one of his concubines was cheating on him. He executed hundreds of women in his harem while shouting about betrayal like a villain in a dramatic soap opera. Imagine your country being run by someone whose emotional range is just anger, jealousy, and expensive swimming lessons. That was Ibrahim. A ruler whose crown should have come with a warning label. 9. Emperor Tiberius. The ruler who fled his own empire and turned paranoia into an Olympic event. Tiberius ruled Rome, then Rome stressed him out. So he moved to a private island where he spent his days hiding from imaginary plots, while he trusted no one. Not his friends, not his family, not the Senate. Probably not his own reflection. Visitors would arrive on the island and never return. He filled the place with spies, informants, and terrified servants who jumped at shadows. Imagine your boss working from home except his home is a fortress full of snitches and disappearing guests. Rome called him emperor. He was more like the paranoid neighbor who reports birds to the police. 10. Emperor Nero. The man who treated cruelty like a hobby and Rome like a stage he could burn. Nero wanted to be a performer. Rome wanted an emperor. Both sides lost. He sang while people suffered. He forced audiences to watch his performances for hours because applause was not optional. People pretended to faint just to escape. He murdered his own mother. He executed rivals out of boredom. He blamed Christians for a fire he likely started. He even tried to race chariots in competitions he rigged for himself. Imagine a leader whose idea of a humanitarian act was giving you front row seats to his terrible singing. Nero did not burn Rome because he was evil. He burned it because he wanted better lighting for his fantasy concert. 11. Emperor Qin Shi Huang. The ruler who tried to outlaw reality itself. Qin Shi Huang united China. Then he tried to delete China's opinions. He banned books. He banned scholars. He banned anything that contradicted his ideas, which basically meant everything. He even outlawed conversations he did not like. His obsession with immortality was even worse. He drank mercury potions because alchemists told him it would make him live forever. It did not. It turned his brain into a confused chemical soup while he searched for magic islands that did not exist. Imagine a modern leader who bans Google, burns libraries, and takes vitamin gummies made of poison. That was Qin Shi Huang, a man who tried to bully the universe into making him eternal. 12. Charles II of Spain. The monarch who rewrote physics simply by existing. Charles II was the final product of 2 centuries of royal inbreeding. His family tree was not a tree. It was a circle. He struggled to speak. He struggled to walk. He struggled to chew food without assistance. He believed he was cursed. His court believed he was cursed. His entire dynasty believed he was cursed. He spent his reign surrounded by exorcists, miracle workers, and priests who tried to fix him with supernatural therapy. Meanwhile, the Spanish Empire collapsed like a sandcastle hit by a tidal wave. Imagine a ruler whose DNA was basically a strongly worded warning from nature. That was Charles II, the king who proved genetic roulette should never be played on maximum difficulty. 13. Emperor Paul, the First of Russia. The ruler who treated the empire like his personal toy collection. Paul I loved rules. He loved rules so much he invented new ones every morning, dress codes, marching styles, colors people were allowed to wear. He once banned his own soldiers from wearing comfortable uniforms because he wanted them to look more shiny. Imagine a leader so obsessed with aesthetics he turns the army into a fashion show with mandatory misery. He changed laws faster than his advisors could write them down. He even outlawed certain words because they annoyed him. Not offensive words, just words he personally found boring. His reign felt like living in a giant kindergarten where the teacher was having a breakdown. Russia did not fear Paul for his power. Russia feared Paul for his spontaneity. 14. King Ludwig II of Bavaria. The ruler whose obsession with luxury bankrupted a kingdom and built the world's weirdest castles. Ludwig II lived in a fantasy novel. He spent his entire reign constructing giant dream palaces inspired by opera plots, fairy tales, and whatever he thought looked dramatic that morning. He built indoor grottos. He built fake lakes. He built a man-made moon that could be dimmed to create vibes. Imagine ruling a kingdom and deciding your top priority is a personal cave with mood lighting. While Bavaria begged for economic stability, Ludwig ordered more marble, more fountains, more swan-themed nonsense, and more expensive magic castle ideas. His advisors were one invoice away from crying. Eventually, the government staged an intervention because the national budget looked like a shopping spree. Ludwig was not a villain. He was a maximalist fever dream with a crown. 15. King Christian VII of Denmark. The ruler who treated government like improv comedy with zero rehearsal. Christian VII did not rule Denmark. He freestyled it. Every decision he made felt like he rolled a pair of emotional dice and reacted to whatever number came up. He ran through the palace punching people for fun. He stabbed the air with imaginary swords. He held conversations with himself in front of terrified diplomats. His physicians suspected severe mental illness. His court suspected possession. His guards suspected they would not survive the week. At one point, he appointed a random childhood friend as national advisor simply because they had a great time messing around as kids. Imagine your country run by someone who picks cabinet members the same way children pick dodgeball teams. Christian VII was living in his own chaotic sitcom. Everyone else was stuck in the horror version. 16. Emperor Jiajing of China. The ruler whose villain arc was powered by alchemy, paranoia, and way too many young girls. Jiajing believed immortality required a steady supply of teenage virgins forced into rituals that made even his own court whisper in disgust. He isolated himself in a private palace where he chanted spells, burned incense, and consumed potions that probably violated every law of chemistry. He let the government rot while he chased eternal life like it was a Black Friday sale. Eventually, the women in his palace snapped. A group of palace maids tried to assassinate him by strangling him with a silk scarf. They almost succeeded, but someone panicked and loosened the knot. Imagine being such a terrible ruler that your employees coordinate a murder attempt with office supplies. That was Jiajing, a man who survived by accident and kept ruling like nothing happened. 17. Pharaoh Akhenaten. The ruler who forced an entire civilization to follow his personal rebranding project. Akhenaten woke up one day and decided Egypt needed a makeover. Not a small one. A full religious reboot. He erased the old gods. He shut down temples. He deleted centuries of tradition because he liked one sun god more than the rest. He redesigned art so everyone had the same stretched alien look. He forced sculptors to reshape reality to match his imagination. Imagine your CEO banning every logo the company ever used because he likes a new doodle he made during lunch. People starved while Akhenaten wandered around writing hymns and posing dramatically in sunlight. Egypt did not reject him. Egypt waited politely for him to die so they could reboot the reboot. 18. King George III of Britain. The ruler whose brain glitched so hard he accidentally steered an empire into chaos. George III was not evil. He was unstable. Severely. His mental episodes were so intense that he talked nonstop for hours while foaming at the mouth. He believed trees were talking to him. He gave orders to imaginary people. His physicians had no idea what to do other than record everything like horrified podcasters. During one breakdown, he wrote letters filled with sentences so long they barely made sense. His condition worsened while Britain faced wars, revolutions, and a collapsing empire. Imagine your head of state arguing with shrubbery during the American Revolution. George III was not a villain. He was a tragic glitch in royal hardware. But the damage was very real. 19. Timur the Lame. The conqueror who built towers out of human skulls like they were Pinterest projects. Timur did not simply win wars, he curated them. He treated kingdoms like clay and sculpted chaos with both hands. After conquering cities, he ordered his soldiers to collect heads by the thousands and stack them into decorative skull towers. Yes, decorative. Imagine visiting a new city and the first thing you see is a macabre art installation that screams, "Welcome. You might be next." He burned cities because their leaders annoyed him. He leveled nations because they did not respect him fast enough. His campaigns were so brutal that entire regions lost half their population. He was not just a villain. He was a natural disaster with a crown. Timur walked so apocalyptic fiction could run. 20. Queen Ranavalona I of Madagascar. The monarch who turned paranoia into a national climate. Ranavalona did not trust foreign influence. So she removed it. Aggressively, she expelled missionaries. She executed suspected traitors. She created forced labor systems so cruel that surviving them counted as a personality trait. Her favorite policy was a ritual called the Tangina ordeal. If she thought you were disloyal, she made you eat poison and hope you vomited it out quickly enough to prove your innocence. If you did not vomit in time, you were guilty. And also dead. Imagine your legal system being run by a malfunctioning cooking show. Under her rule, the population of Madagascar dropped by more than half. She did not govern the kingdom. She squeezed it until it stopped moving. Ranavalona was the final boss of royal paranoia. Everyone else was just doing side quests. 21. King Charles IX of France. The ruler whose paranoia turned into a supernatural hallucination spiral. Charles IX began shaky. Then he slid into full nightmare mode. He believed ghosts followed him through the palace. He heard phantom screams in empty rooms. He woke up drenched in sweat, claiming spirits were dragging him toward hell. This was not metaphor. This was his daily routine. He became convinced that invisible enemies lurked behind every door. He paced the palace with wild eyes and trembling hands. His mother tried to control him, but even she could not manage a king whose nightmares leaked into daylight. The man ordered massacres because voices told him enemies were hiding among innocent crowds. Imagine a ruler whose foreign policy is haunted house logic. Charles IX was not leading France. He was running from demons only he could see. 22. King Leopold II of Belgium. The final boss of real-life villainy. Leopold II did not conquer the Congo. He consumed it. He turned an entire region into his personal money machine disguised as a humanitarian project. His soldiers cut off hands as proof of forced labor quotas. Villages that resisted were burned. Millions died under his rule, not hundreds. Not thousands. Millions. He never stepped foot on most of the land he controlled. He ran the Congo like a remote horror show from a luxury palace in Europe. He gave speeches about civilization while creating one of the worst humanitarian disasters in recorded history. Imagine a villain so shameless he steals a country, destroys it, profits from it, then markets himself as a hero. That was Leopold II, the ruler so evil he makes fictional villains look like motivational speakers. So there you have it. 22 rulers who make every fictional villain look like they need more training. Writers spend years trying to create believable evil. History just handed it out like free samples. Some ruled with paranoia. Some ruled with delusion. Some ruled with personal problems so dramatic they should have come with background music and a licensed therapist. If you ever feel overwhelmed by modern politics, just remember this. At least your leaders are not declaring war on the ocean or forcing people to prove innocence by eating poison or building decorative skull towers like they are running a horror-themed craft show. Humanity has survived worse. Much worse. Now the real question. Which of these rulers felt the most unhinged to you? Who deserves the crown for pure chaos? Tell us in the comments. And if this video made you question everything you ever learned about history, then you know exactly what to do. Subscribe, like, comment, and prepare yourself. Because next time history is going to get even weirder.